Welcome to Failed Forward, a podcast for professionals who are wondering, how the hell did I get here?
Join your host, Rachel Durkan, and me, Donna Miller, as we discuss the messy, bumpy, and often unattractive journey to success.
After all, if it isn't hard to do, is it really worth doing? Hello, everyone, and welcome to Failed Forward, the podcast for those of us wondering, how the hell did I get here? My name is Rachel Durkan. I'm with Paradigm Marketing and Design. We are a web marketing, branding, and sales enablement agency that specializes in working with clients with a complex sale. So if you have a sales team that you want to have, who wants to have more meetings, more qualified meetings, and close more deals more quickly, we can help build a marketing to sales infrastructure that will make that happen. And I am joined each week by my lovely co-host, Donna Miller. Donna, tell our audience about you.
Hello, everyone. Thank you, Rachel. So I am Chief Visionary Officer and founder of C3 Workplace and Donna Miller Business Growth Consulting, where for the last 30 years, hard to believe, we've been helping companies to accelerate their growth by providing support and advisory services around operations, biz dev, finance. In essence, we allow growing teams and business owners to work smarter by focusing on the activities that really push their business forward. And our clients come to us because they know that we will build efficient, connected, and executable systems, whether they want to execute or they want our help on the execution. But we're laying the foundation to help them grow a company that will ultimately run and grow without them involved in every little detail, something that I'm a tiny bit passionate about. So if you're looking to self-scale your company, we'd love to talk more. So today, Rachel and I wanted to talk to you about something that is very near and dear to us. And it's so funny because our backgrounds really integrate well on this, and we've spoken on this before. But basically, we really want to talk to you in the spirit of failing forward. This may not be the case with you, but some of us aren't charging enough for what we're doing.
And we're undervaluing what we're doing.
We're undervaluing.
This is especially true in a service industry. Now, it can happen in products, but people, especially when you're a solopreneur or you're a consultant, you are so willing to negotiate the price of your time because you're like, what would I be doing anyway? And it is a huge inhibitor to scaling, in my opinion. I mean, it's actually, I think, why many businesses fail and don't make it past that $1 million mark. So, Donna, I know you've done like 100 presentations on this. Like, what's your belief on charging what you're worth?
This is something that's very near and dear to me, and I hate to be stereotypical, but frankly, I work with a lot of women business owners, and I think that in my experience, we have a tendency to underprice our value. Right. So we leave these corporate jobs, or, the side hustle grows into a bigger business, and we start these, like you said, it's a service. It's more of a service-based problem. And, maybe in our corporate job, I don't know, we're making $200,000 and that comes out to, I don't know, $75 an hour. And we think, oh, let me charge $150 and I'll be so ahead of the game. So I have some formulas and worksheets that I use with clients to help them not only think about their labor cost, but there's a huge loaded cost in terms of, okay, you're starting out your business today and it's just you, and it feels like pure profit. But at some point, if you want to scale your business, even if you want to scale it to a profitable lifestyle business, which is something I'm passionate about, you're going to hire someone else to do the work. Unless you build that margin in from the beginning, it is impossible.
You can't go back to people and say, I was charging $50, but now I have to charge $150.
Yes, I had to hire people, so now I have to charge you more. So that's never going to work. So from the very beginning, I think you have to, and Rachel, you and I talk about data all the time. This is an absolute data conversation. What are your loaded costs? It's not just, payroll, taxes, and benefits. It's marketing, it's advertising, it's overhead.
There's so much overhead.
It's turnover. Yeah. I mean, so in a service industry, it used to be a third, and a third. What you paid the employee was 1/3. What went to overhead was 1/3, and 1/3 went to profit. We are seeing that the labor market is a little more expensive these days, so
Mhm.
that 33% is probably closer to 40%. But the truth is, that's it. You need that 60% for profit and overhead. And I know that sounds like a really big number, but it's a real number.
I talk to my team all the time about this because in our finance goals, I mean, in most service industries, uh, I shouldn't say most, but in some service industries, we always shoot for a gross profit of 75%. And I've had people come, employees come to me in the past and say, "You're making 75% off me an hour." And I'm like, no, 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 no. Then after I put overhead in, insurance that I have to pay, the taxes that I have to pay, I'm making 20% if I'm lucky, right? So there's this huge margin that has to be considered. And it is a data number, but it's also an emotional thing, Donna. And so the first thing that I always tell me, I was just helping a client who's starting a business write their business plan. And I said, you always have to look at the numbers in two ways. Forget the emotional piece, the data piece. One, it's supply and demand, right? So
Right.
the first thing I look at is, and this is if your company is even viable, right? So step one, the third is good. What I do is I double the price and then I add or I add 25% to cover like certain overhead and then I double the price and that's what I charge. And like that usually comes out to that 20% margin if we're lucky. And
So let's just pause a minute. Your formula is add on 25% to my cost and
so
then double it.
the cost of the employee, right?
Right,
So the
right.
blended rate, because that there's insurance, there's taxes, there's paid time off, there's people get sick, there's FMLA, there's all these things you have to be considered. So first of all, what you get paid is not what the company's paying you. You're
Absolutely.
30% more usually
At least, right.
at least. And then I double it. And that accounts for the overhead. But that's our formula. That, I mean, your third, you have to do your own numbers to make it
Yep,
work. But
yep,
that's
yep.
how high the numbers have to be to get decent margins. So I was doing this formula with a client. And so we said, okay, we have to charge for this particular service $90 an hour. We have to. Now, now you got to go to the market. What will people pay for this? If they're not going to pay 90 an hour, it's supply and demand. If they'll pay 150, great. Then that's the audience you have to go after. If they're going to pay 60, the business is not viable. And so it's really important to consider both supply and demand before you're even going to market. The problem is the emotion for the small business owner. And we've all done it. So we're talking about Phil Forward, like Donna, you've been there. I've been there. It's interesting because my sister-in-law, I'm very proud of her, has started a dog walking business. And she works her, I mean, remember, I'm sure you remember the days on 100-hour weeks, 100
Vaguely.
hours a week. And now, first of all, back then, I'm probably making $60,000 a year working 80 hours a week. So what is that? Hang on, let me just get my calculator out. You're making 60,000
Don't do
a year.
it.
Or you're like, you know what? I did pretty good this month. I brought in 8 grand. Good for me. But I worked $8,000 divided by 4.3, 80 hours a week. I worked on $23 an hour. Like I could have gone to McDonald's and gotten benefits for just about the same. So,
Right.
and keep in mind that 8 grand that you made doesn't, you have to pay taxes still, you have to pay insurance, you have to
Yep,
pay. So when you're
yep.
making the money, 8 grand is not 8 grand. So my point is that she's hustling and she's like out there walking dogs for, 25 bucks for 30 minutes. But I'm like, but you have to drive there. You have to, like, there's a model. So what do you,
I always say that about the
so
dog walkers. You got a lot of travel going on.
you got a lot of travel. You got to like cluster it. So but when you feel like, especially women, that, well, I have the time, it's just my time. What am I going to be doing anyway? You're going to be doing a lot of shit. And it's so interesting you said that about the emotion, Donna, because I have a lot of friends, girlfriends who've got kids who aren't corporate that do everything. Their time is booked. I see time as a commodity. I see me sitting doing nothing as a commodity. It is, so when I'm doing something, if I'm not getting paid a certain amount, I'm not doing it. If I'm not going to clean my house, I can make more money billable. Like you've got to start thinking about the time as a resource. And I apologize to my husband, hate crazy because I use that in every aspect of my life. Like if he's like, hey, can you do this? I'm like, no, that's totally inefficient. I'm going to order it on Amazon. I'm not going to go to the store. That's 15 extra minutes. Amazon will drop it off for the same price, even if my
Right,
Amazon is inflated.
right. I get it. And I think, the emotion, and we've talked so much in past episodes, it comes up again and again and again. But I do think that not charging what you're worth is is a component of imposter syndrome. You're
Mm-hmm.
doubting your own value. And the place where I think what I do and what you do in this regard overlaps so well is that the way you don't compete on price is by knowing your compelling differentiators
Mm-hmm.
and
That's
by
it.
presenting yourself in a value based way. And you have helped me and my team really do this exceedingly well. It's protected us against competitive situations. We charge as much as the global providers do. And it's so liberating because, and this is from my Sandler training, but at the very beginning of some of my calls, and it depends on the tone of it, I will literally say to the person, we will never be your least expensive option.
Mm-hmm.
If price is your number one, we're probably not a good fit for each other.
Yeah.
But if you're looking for a great relationship that's going to have your back, we're going to feel like a seamless extension of your team. We're going to contribute to your
Or
growth.
work harder than those global
Right.
people. Yeah.
If that's an investment that makes sense for you, then great. And I do see it all the time, and it does break my heart when people don't charge enough. And I have to be really honest with you. I'm guilty of this even in recent years. So when COVID happened, I started up my Donna Miller Business Growth
Mm-hmm.
Consulting practice. And if I told you what I initially charged, like here I am,
Yeah.
25 years in business, and I was charging such a small amount. So since, in the 3 or 4 years that I've had my consulting practice, I've raised my prices so many times. They're probably triple what I started at, and I'm on wait list. Like,
Yeah.
so the truth is, it really is about, I believe, investing the time to boost up your own confidence in what you're doing. And, Rachel, we also talk about this all the time. Sitting at a table with people who tell you what you need to hear, not what you want to hear. I also see this a lot, and then I'll switch back to you. I could go on forever about this topic. People start up businesses, and the feedback they get is from their family. Well, their
Mm-hmm.
family loves them. Their family's never going to tell them anything they don't want to hear. Those first sales, you slam dunk them, you get like 100% close ratio because everybody loves you and they want to help you. And then it drops off.
Yeah.
So, there is a lot of emotion attached to it. But I think that the
And when
reality
sales are down, you're willing to,
right.
you're like, I need the revenue. And I'm not saying don't make the call, but make the call smartly. I never sacrifice. I'll say, okay, this is a discount for 3 months, but in the contract, it goes up after 3 months. Like
A
you gotta be.
100%, a
Mhm.
100%. Don't ever negotiate just for the sake of negotiating. Make sure there's something in it for both of you. And, you know, you also, Rachel, we are in kind of trusted advisor roles. And sometimes are not sometimes. I think, it's the no like trust, it's the 11 to 42 touches. I don't know how many it is these days, but sometimes the quickest way to the best clients is helping them to experience you. So
Mhm.
if you decide to discount for the first couple of months, to me, that's a marketing expense.
Mhm.
So just
Yeah.
like they're investing to try and move their company forward, if I'm offering a discount on these services, it's because very often in our case, they almost can't wrap their head around where to start. So if
Mhm.
I can kind of get in there and help them to see how we think and how we work, well, that's my investment, and that's proved efficient for me. But again, you only do it for a certain amount of time.
I would say for those who are just starting out, there's two rules I would always tell myself. One, I want to look at how many hours I worked that week and divide the money I made and how much money did I truly make an hour? If you made 20 bucks an hour, 15 bucks an hour, that's not where you want to be, right? So I'm at a point in my career where I would rather work less and make a certain amount of money than work more, I want to make the most I can an hour so I can spend time otherwise, right? And
Right.
so one, always be calculating what you made an hour. And two, could pretend that it's somebody else doing the work and you've got to pay them no matter what, right?
100.
So I've got to pay this person 20 bucks an hour. What's my margin? Oh, even if it's me, always pretend that. And anything else, you want to go walk a dog because you really like that dog. If I want to work with a client because I'm passionate about that project, that's pro bono. That's I'm doing because it's a hobby. But you've got to pretend that you are paying someone else no matter what to do the work. because you will not scale if you're undercharging.
Not only will you
Also
not
burn out.
scale, but I think that you can build a profitable solo consulting practice, but the truth is, unless you've built that infrastructure, unless you have built that margin into what you're charging, even that little solo consulting practice will ultimately eat you alive, and you'll start to hate what you're doing.
Yeah, it
Um,
won't be fun
so
anymore.
yeah, I agree with you. You have to look from the very beginning. If I was to hire someone to do this work, what would that cost me? And based on that, what would
Mhm.
I charge? And does the
And how would
market
I make
bear that?
money on top of it to cover the overhead and the scheduling? And now, talking about fail forward, this is where one of the areas I really messed up, and I learned this lesson once, and I never made the mistake again. But as we were growing, it was sometime around when we had like 10 employees. Our revenue started going, we always had good margins, but our revenue started going like this, and our profit started going like this. And so and listen, as you get bigger, your margins get a little wider. But this was alarming. And so what we did, that we used to charge flat fees for things. And what I found with flat fees for clients is that the squeakier wheel, the more difficult client, the bigger problems would get this more attention. And the easy client, the one I loved working with, would get less attention because they weren't as squeaky. And and so we were putting all of our resources in, first of all, the wrong area, the pain in the asses, excuse my language. And when I actually looked at the profitability by client, I was literally losing money. I was literally paying more. I was paying more to work on that client than they were paying me. Like I was paying employees more money, and I was making all my money over here. And these are the people that are probably going to fire me because we weren't paying attention to them. And so you've got to look at each individual client. And that's why we started billing hourly, period, where you've got to look at each individual client and make sure that you're making money on that client, because I don't want those hard clients anyway. If I have to fire them, great. I was literally losing money on them. Why am I working on this? And it's kind of like this aha moment, like, holy shit, why am I doing this when I'm losing money? Because when you're in it, you're so focused on making them happy, staying in it, achieving, doing the right thing. But why? We all need to make money. You always say profit leads to possibility, Donna. So
Right, right.
I that was a huge lesson for me. And God knows how much money I lost in that process, but until I finally realized.
Yeah. Um, yeah, I mean, I totally agree. And I think just, I could go on and on about this topic, and we'll have to do a part two on hiring, because that's the other piece of it.
Mhm.
In general, I encourage people from the time they open their business to think and behave like the company they want to become. So, your org chart is always in the beginning, me, 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 me. But where
Mhm.
do you want to go with this? And so you have to, from the beginning, conduct yourself as if that's who you are.
And what are the
And
market rates for each of those positions?
exactly,
Mhm.
exactly, exactly. And, labor is hard to find at the moment, more expensive. And the thing I want to talk about in another episode is, and in the spirit of failing forward, I used to hire inexperienced people and train them. And I have found that is absolutely far more expensive than
Mhm.
paying more for the person who has the
Well, how
experience.
much is your time worth? You're the
Absolutely.
one training them.
Absolutely. And the
The only
truth
time I
is,
like to do that is entry level and then see, and then you can weed out the potentials. But
right,
more
right,
senior,
right.
absolutely.
Exactly. So yeah. All right. So we're hitting the top of our time. So, kind of in the spirit and the format of our kind of podcast. So, here's what I would say to you, Rachel. If you could go back in regards to charging and whatnot, if you could go back and change one thing, what would that be? So, in other words, what should our audience do?
Well, I like what everyone says is like I learned these lessons the hard way and I'll never forget them. So I wouldn't necessarily change anything, but if I could go back and try to tell my younger self something, it would have when I started, I was so desperate to make it work, but it would have been about doing exactly what you said earlier on, mapping out what is the job descriptions that I need. Right now, Rachel is in all of them. What is the market rate in that? And how do I do the formula for charging? Because charging used to be an emotional, like, yeah, I'll charge $100 an hour. That seems legit. There was no formula. I made that shit up. So use the worksheets that Donna has, use the tools and have a formula. There is a legit formula to supply and demand for even service industry. So I wish I could have gone back and known that earlier. What about you?
Agreed. Okay, so the thing that I would have done differently is I would have priced our services as if, so we are, as the owners of the company, hopefully, the highest compensated person in the company, but I'm fully non-billable. That's a big friggin' cost to load into the rest of it.
Mhm.
That I wish I had thought of sooner, because that in and of itself would add to your cost. So what I
Yeah.
would do differently is I would look at, I love everything you said. We now look at profitability by client, by service offering. But I think, I would have taken the bigger picture, and I would have done utilization data
Mhm.
research earlier in the game. Because when you dial that knob just that teeny tiny bit, it
Mhm.
makes a huge difference. So I would have analyzed the data quicker.
Mhm.
And I would have embraced the concept of, and I am there now, but I want to work with people who are willing to pay me, who see my value, who are, you want to go after low touch, high profit.
And know your own. Now, let me say one thing. There is a time and place to charge less. So when I did my first website ever, between you and me, Donna, I have no idea what I was doing. I was just out of school. I was winging it. I did a 50-page website for $500. Today, that would be $20,000. Okay. I made it up. And it was really, and you know what? Me not knowing what I was doing was worth $500. It was an experiment. So there's also I just wrote a marketing plan with the client, and we're launching a new solution. We have a pilot program. We're going to someone specifically. We're saying this is the pilot program. You're going to get a significant discount. We're going to market it together. So like there's a time and place to
Uh-huh.
roll something out. But you have to think of it as a pilot program, as your first trial. Like you can't think of it as the norm.
Right, right. It has to work for everyone. Don't
Yes.
discount just for discounting. Okay. All righty. Well,
Out of time.
I love this topic, and I want to talk more about hiring, and not hiring inexperienced people. Anyway, so we thank you as always for joining us for this episode of Failed Forward. How the hell did I get here? And until we meet again, we want you to embrace charging what you're worth, and embracing the lessons that you too can find in failure. Thanks, everyone.